Good evening. He's scrapped his controversial plan, apologised and tried to rally support. But tonight, European football bosses are having none of it. They say they still have no confidence in the FIFA president, Gianni Infantino, and that the boycott of the World Cup still stands. So the most powerful man in world football is still battling to survive, despite receiving backing at a crisis meeting in Morocco he himself called. And some more news in the past few minutes. Sky News understands that the English FA has now sent its letter withdrawing support for Mr. Infantino. In around 20 minutes' time, we'll speak live to a former chief executive of UEFA. But first, our sports correspondent Rob Harris is here with me. So this statement from UEFA and now the FA confirming the letter has gone in.
Yes, fast-moving developments with attempts from governing bodies and sporting institutions across the world to up that pressure on Gianni Infantino, not accepting the apology issued yesterday. We talked about it being support offered. It was support just from a few members of Infantino's management board during that meeting in Morocco. So this is where we are right now. On Monday, we said the Football Association was set to submit this letter. Now they have officially withdrawn support for Gianni Infantino's re-election next year. This is significant because it's after last night's expression of regret, announcement they'll look at governance changes. The FA asked for a full review of how things are run at FIFA. Clearly, this is not acceptable to them. We've also heard for the first time critically from South American football's governing body, CONMEBOL. They're normally so loyal to Gianni Infantino. Now they're talking about concern about the repeated unilateral actions taken without resorting to dialogue or to the institutional mechanisms. This is all about how Gianni Infantino secretly negotiated these plans to sell off shares in the World Cup to private investors before eventually putting them to members. He said he would do down the line. But these plans leaked out. They had to scramble to confirm them, and criticism from his own staff. And a third strand is we've been hearing from the players' union globally, FIFPro, who say that there's been a profound abuse of presidential power and trust is deeply shattered with FIFA, and they're demanding players now have a voice on the FIFA Council on the future of football.
Right. And in reality, how difficult can UEFA make life for Infantino? Because they're talking about boycotting the World Cup. There's many other competitions, presumably, they can also boycott.
Yes. Now, it was last week that UEFA initially threatened to withdraw all of its teams from competitions unless certain conditions were met. Well, Sky News has discovered from UEFA they believe that nothing has changed with yesterday's announcement, late night from Gianni Infantino, alongside Mateusz Grafstrom, his Secretary-General, who had been critical of these plans. Let's take a look at what UEFA have actually said to us. They say UEFA's associations were very clear about the conditions attached to the non-participation in FIFA competitions. First, the proposals to sell off the major competitions had to be withdrawn. And secondly, assurances have to be made that such attempts to disfigure the game in this way will never be made again. These conditions have not been met. In addition, UEFA have made it abundantly clear in its statement on Saturday that it has lost confidence in Gianni Infantino's presidency. That position holds. Yesterday's announcement that some people employed by the FIFA president and whose careers depend on his favour agree with him changes nothing. So that is UEFA not backing down in this civil war. There's a Women's World Cup next year. And in a month's time, in Europe, in Poland, is the Under-20 Women's World Cup, in which England are also due to participate in. And now that is under threat.
Right. And as you say, things moving pretty fast. But what's your hunch? Are things... I mean, if he doesn't quit, the longer he stays on, I suppose, you could argue that he'll rally the support he needs.
Yes, and he does need the majority of the 211 FAs around the world in the election next year. He's digging in, digging deep. The deadline for candidates is November. Interestingly, CONMEBOL, which is actually pushing to get the World Cup expanded to 64 teams because it's amongst 6 co-hosts for the 2030 men's tournament, has been backing Infantino to try and get these plans through. And in the sense he was supportive of them. The fact they've broken ranks a bit, they're referencing the election next year by talking about issues with the institutional mechanism and disregard. So the question is now, does Infantino still try to hold firm? What will be acceptable to the world? Well, for UEFA, they want regime change.
OK. Rob, thank you very much.